Hello, welcome back. I'm Rao Vallabhaneni. It's my pleasure to welcome you all back to the session and introduce the highlight of today's program, which is President's Debate. Let me welcome Ms. Rachel Bell, President of the BSET, and Mr. Mike Jenkins, President of the Vascular Society of Great Britain and Ireland, to debate today's motion. On the table, it is an over-reliance on aortic aneurysm diameter thresholds means we are carrying out repairs on a significant number of patients that derive no benefit. In summary, the motion states that a lot of aortic aneurysm surgery we do is a waste of time. So with that provocative motion, we have set up a poll question on the Zoom, and may I invite you all to cast your vote. If we can open the vote, please. There is a minute to cast your vote, so please get your vote in. I'm really looking forward to this debate. So as you all know, both the presidents are presidents for both the societies. Ms. Rachel Bell, who is current president of BSET, is the vice president-elect of the Vascular Society, and Mike was past president of the BSET, who is now wearing the other shoes of president of the Vascular Society. The previous debates by the two were quite entertaining and educational, and I'm expecting the same.
Maybe entertaining, but not necessarily educational.
So get your vote in.
This is quite a long process, Rao. Does someone need to tell a joke or something? What? Is it quite complicated?
It's 1 minute. 1 minute is all we are giving. So I think the votes are coming in, and I think they'll be rapidly collated. And I'm expecting the green room or Jeanette to let me know the result. And
it's a bit like Eurovision.
0 points so far for you.
So with some regional voting then.
Indeed, definitely regional voting.
Yes, so 50% for the motion. So Ms. Bell starts with a slight advantage. Mike, you have an uphill task. So may I invite Ms. Bell to make her case, please?
Thank you very much, Rao. It's a real pleasure to be in the President's Debate. It's just such a shame that we're not doing this face-to-face. It's going to be quite difficult because for those of you who don't know how we're doing it, I'm talking to a blank screen and I get no laughter at any of my jokes. So luckily I find myself quite amusing, so I'll probably laugh at my own jokes. So I say with a slightly wistful tone that actually I should have been debating Chris Emery. Because if it hadn't been for COVID, I would have demitted last year and I would have debated Chris, and I would have been able to put up beautiful scenic pictures of mountains with him shamelessly showing his support for the Circulation Foundation. But it wasn't to be. And so serendipitously, I am debating Mr. Michael Jenkins, who, as you already know, is the president of the Vascular Society, the past president of BSET, and the past chair of the Circulation Foundation. He's a highly regarded surgeon and a very good trainer, and actually a generally all-round good guy. He does support the Welsh, but I might forgive him. What about me? Well, if you were to read my CV, you would actually think that I was possibly Michael Jenkins' groupie. I have essentially, without any imagination, just shamelessly followed him. I am the president of BSET and the current chair of the Circulation Foundation, and I am president-elect of the Vascular Society. In addition to those similar traits, I aspire to be as good as Mike surgically. We've never actually operated together, so I can't say whether I am or not. I've probably had to work a bit harder as a woman to get where I've got, so maybe we're about the same. However, I would say that we're probably about the same height. And for all of those of you on Zoom who have never met me and seen me standing, my best friends would describe me as being extremely short, with Tyrannosaurus Rex arms, i.e. very short arms. I think Mike and I are pretty similar in that regard. I definitely have more hair than him, and as from previous debates, he will tell you I have bigger breasts than him. And I definitely support the English. However, my challenger, he is a revered debater. Of all the people that I could have been pitted against today, he is probably the one that I would say I respect but fear the most. You can see he has a very impressive chain of office. His debating methods are extreme. He has been known to stalk school friends of mine to get photos of me I've never seen to put up in debates, and I suspect that he will have done something similar for today's debate. This is our third debate together, I think. And currently, Mike won the first two, and I have yet to win one. However, those who know me know I'm always up for a challenge. So, let's get to the matter in hand. I've had to put the title up again because, thanks to Professor Moderai, it's quite wordy. You can always trust an academic to use 40,000 words when a few sentences might have done. I am speaking for the motion about the over-reliance on aortic diameter thresholds mean that we are repairing aneurysms on patients that derive no benefit. So why do we repair aneurysms? Well, the whole idea is to prevent death from rupture and therefore prolong survival. I think also we do try and reduce patients' anxiety by trying to sort out a life-threatening problem. I also cynically think that we do it because we genuinely love it. And also, I think because certainly in outpatients, it's easier to say yes than it is to say no. Sorry, my clicker. So why do patients want their aneurysms repaired? Well, I think a lot of it is that they've been terrified by somebody I've yet to find into believing that they have a ticking time bomb inside them. And if that person happens to be listening to the debate today, I just want to tell you that I will find you and I will kill you, because I do think that that phrase has engendered more fear in patients than anything else. I think if they were honest with you, if they've got aneurysms over 6 centimetres, they want their aneurysm repaired because they want to be able to drive again. They do want to live longer, and they really don't want to die from a rupture, although personally I actually think that dying from a ruptured aneurysm might be quite a nice experience in compared to other ways of dying. And I think that after surgery, they want to have the same or a better quality of life than they had before. The things to remember about aneurysm repair, though, as Barend mentioned earlier, this is a prophylactic operation. Patients definitely won't be immediately better after surgery. In fact, quite a number of them will feel quite a lot worse for a number of months, maybe even years. 1 to 4%, conservative estimate, die from the surgery that we perform. And a third of patients that have open surgery never get back to their preoperative fitness levels. And the really important thing that we have to remember is that vascular patients have other comorbidities that can also kill them, and often a lot faster than their aneurysm. Also, I think as medical professionals, I think we have to realise that patients are genuinely much more interested in their life after 30 days post-op. But genuinely, all of our trials and reports seem to just concentrate on that outcome measure, which is a little bit meaningless. So what are the treatment options? So I've heard some of you, I haven't heard Mike, but definitely Bijan in clinic saying, well, there are 2 ways of repairing your aneurysm. Well, there are actually 3, not necessarily repairing your aneurysm, but there are 3 treatment modalities. And best medical treatment is one method of, don't necessarily have to repair that aneurysm. And I think that we forget it. We forget that this is an option and it is something that we should talk to the patients about. We tend to be very surgically minded and want to do something practical. So the important questions for this debate are, does size matter? That age-old question. A lot of women will be tittering in the audience. I can tell you that I think size does matter in certain instances in life, and I refer you to the meme on the right side of the screen. However, we'll talk about that in more detail in a moment. Does the operation actually benefit the patient? So do they live longer? Will they be better after their operation? And do we prevent death from rupture? And can we improve our patient selection if we are, in fact, not benefiting patients and operating on patients that we shouldn't? So does size matter? Well, we know that the risk of rupture is primarily related to diameter, and increasing size seems to increase the chance of rupture. But we also know that a 5 to 5.9 centimetre aneurysm only has about a 1 in 12 chance of rupturing in the next year. So 11 out of 12 of those patients won't rupture. And we also know from COVID and other observational studies that actually the rupture rate seems to be lower than we think it is, certainly lower than the reported rupture rates in previous papers. So what about this size threshold? We tend to operate on patients that have aneurysms over 5.5 centimetres. But if you look at the EVAR2 trial, which is a little out of date now, but not in this instance, the long-term survival in unfit patients, it showed categorically that there was no survival benefit in operating on these patients, those that have been deemed unfit for open surgery. So we really should be turning down these patients for surgery. I know you're going to ask me what is fit and what is unfit, but let's just stick with that for the time being. So what about those patients who are fit enough for surgery? So they've got a size threshold of over 5.5 centimetres, and we operate on them either with EVAR or open surgery. And we can see from these trials, or the EVAR trial, that the early survival benefit from EVAR that we all know about wasn't long lasting, and they had an inferior late survival when compared to open surgery, and the aneurysm related mortality increased for EVAR beyond 8 years. So do the patients actually benefit? So I'll refer you back to the questions that I asked myself in my previous slide. So we know that, I know on old devices, but there was a re-intervention rate of 26% from the EVAR1 trial at 15 years. So maybe patients sign up for that, but I'm not sure that they all understand the risks. There is still a rupture risk post-EVAR and post-open surgery, and for EVAR it's 0.5% to 1.2% per patient per year. And I've already told you that a third of patients having open surgery have a significant functional decline and never get back to their baseline fitness. So I'm not entirely sure that we do benefit all patients. So how the hell do we go about picking the patients that will benefit from surgery? I think that we have to start really looking at shared decision making and objective fitness testing, and we have to identify all the treatment options, including doing nothing. We have to identify the chance of benefit and harm from all options, and we have to do it with the patient as an equal partner. So I know this is controversial, but actually you could argue that a CPET validated prediction model for survival after aneurysm repair might actually help us pick the right group of patients to operate on. So they use a prediction model to estimate 30-day and median day survival with or without surgery using the patient's preoperative variables. And if you look at the graph on the right-hand side, the black solid line represents the patient's survival without aneurysm surgery. The red solid line represents the patient's survival with open surgery, and the dotted red line, the EVAR survival. And the grey dotted line is for a patient who doesn't have an aneurysm, what their predicted survival would be. Now, you can see in this patient, probably, if you were using this tool to aid your decision making, he should have open surgery. But then if I show you a different graph, different patient, obviously the lines are the same. So black is without an operation, red is open surgery, red dotted is EVAR. And you can see that the lines pretty much mirror one another. This patient isn't going to live any longer if we repair their aneurysm, and we shouldn't do it. So in summary, size most definitely should not be the only factor in decision making. Our patients are comorbid and have many things wrong with them, and it's not always the aneurysm that's going to kill them, and we have to be sure that they are going to benefit and live longer from their aneurysm repair. Therefore, I think by definition, at the moment, we must be repairing too many aneurysms and not benefiting all of those patients. I think we need to get better at bespoke patient selection and shared decision making. And so therefore I would urge you, if I can get my slide clicker to work, to vote for the motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rachel. You make an excellent case. Mike, over to you.
Be back at I echo Rachel's thoughts. And in a normal year, having declared nothing, we would be about 20 minutes away from a drink in Tortworth Court Bar, and there'd be a large gin and tonic there waiting for Rachel. But sadly, it's not a normal year. And even though I thought perhaps with BSET being after the government's potential announcement of the end of lockdown, it wasn't to be. But I thought I would check on the website, because about 8 weeks ago, I'd not actually heard anything from BSET. And I thought, my diary for the end of June was filling up. And I thought I'd better just check. And I knew there was a new website. So I went onto the website and I thought, well, I quite like the old orange symbol. We spent ages choosing that. But, I'm not going to argue with Rachel, and I'm certainly not going to argue with Jeanette. If the girls want green, the girls have green. And then I noticed that they'd moved it to the middle of July, which isn't fair, and it was still virtual. And then I read the sort of keyline debate. It's a bit small, so I'll read it out to you. And I'm supposed to be debating Jasmine Gunkel about, do I really have to say feed two birds with one scone? And I thought, Bishan has gone mad. That's not a debate. And then I saw the small print and I realized it was the British Society for Ethical Theory even. They've hacked our letters. How has that happened? So I think after this session, Jeanette, we need a solicitor's letter to this ethical society, because it's really not very ethical and they need to practice what they preach. Which brings me to my opponent. Now, bizarrely, I sort of thought, well, this is going to be a virtual debate, and I share Rachel's frustrations with talking to a screen. I get zero feedback as well. My iMac, you'd think she'd be a West Coast girl, fun-loving, great, but no. It's like a North Carolina librarian. Doesn't get sarcasm, doesn't get anything, never laughs. So I rang Rachel at the weekend saying, I wonder if we just play it straight. And she said she'd done 80% of her talk and it was all taking the piss out of me. So I thought, well, gloves off, I'm going to go to my photo file. And my first joke was going to be that Rachel is BSET president, Circulation Foundation chair, and VSGBI president-elect. And I looked at my CV and I was going to say, I think she's stalking me. But she's even taken my first joke and used it. And, you know, the more I thought about this, I realized this was beginning to affect my mental health. So up to the point that I've actually got, I'm going to say it now, I've got an appointment with occupational health tomorrow morning. And my guess is they are going to recommend a substantial amount of time off. So Colin, if you are listening, we're going to have to completely redo the summer on-call rota. And I just need to put it out there. This has got absolutely nothing to do with any potential announcement that the government is going to make about the restriction of travel. There's nothing at all. So, my opponent, Miss Bell. I'm grateful to Lucy Wales for tweeting this, because what Lucy made the point was that Rachel is the second female president of the Vascular Society of Great Britain and Ireland and follows in the illustrious footsteps of Professor Mansfield. Is it just me? It's uncanny, isn't it? It's hard to believe. And it got me thinking. Now, I've never met Mr. Bell, Rachel's dad, but, you know, I know Professor Mansfield's always been a fine figure of a woman. And we can't judge. It's not for us to extrapolate our 2021 politically correct morals from our woke sort of snowflake generation onto the hedonistic bohemian days of the 1970s. What's happened has happened. We can't go back to that. But Rachel, have you never thought? I remember you telling me when you were up in that Sedbergh boarding school up in the North York Moors, you said you were really grateful for those food parcels and special presents that came from that mysterious friend of your mum's. I think you said she used to sign herself Aunt Avril. You'd never met her, but, you know, did you not think? It's uncanny. And that takes me into Sedbergh School, Rachel's alma mater. And that was going to be my segue. But actually, I'm also grateful to Rob Williams, who tipped me off that Rachel's stellar career has now been recognised by her school. And they have named, I think it was a science block. It may just be in a classroom, I may be exaggerating, but something after her. The Bell Institute. And I'm going to use that to look at Rachel's school days. Now, about, 5-6 years ago, I was about to debate Rachel. It may have even been in the old hotel. And fortunately, just before that, a friend of mine came to dinner and she said she was in school with a girl who is now a consultant vascular surgeon in London. And it became clear that was Rachel. So we did a trade, a picture, and I said, as much jolly hockey sticks, pajama party in the dorm as possible, a picture of Rachel in school with her dorm mates next to Alex in the middle. And I traded that picture for setting up a dinner party that Alex and Rachel could get together. So I kept my part of the bargain, Rachel. But I just felt this didn't quite have enough airtime last time. And there's a new generation of BSET, so I thought it was worth showing it again. Rachel before the start of her illustrious career. Now, I suppose we've got to get to the motion. And I sort of agree with you. An over-reliance on aortic aneurysm diameter thresholds means we're carrying out repair on a significant number of patients whom derive no benefit. Sorry, I did change the grammar a bit. I hate bad grammar. It's a bit better, Bijan, than the thing about the birds and the scone, but only a bit. Because in my mind, these are completely different things. So there can't be an over-reliance. Diameter threshold is all we've got. Whether the indication is there for surgery, that is a different argument. So I'm not quite sure about this, but I'm going to have a go at it. And I accept fully showing data, the BSET debate is an anathema. This is not fair. And anyone who feels queasy about this, they can hide their eyes for the next few slides, because I'm even going to show some graphs, so beware. So we have to go back about 20 years to Frank Laderal's paper, which showed, and I think Rachel's already mentioned it, there is a very clear relationship between maximum diameter and rupture rate. And in this paper, once an aneurysm gets over 7 centimeters, 30% of those patients rupture within a year. And I accept in the last 2 decades, smoking cessation and best medical therapy has reduced those rates, but they are still there. And the other thing we know from UK SAT, Janet Powell showed very clearly that aneurysms grow. And over a time course of that, about 70% got to indicative threshold for repair. And that is a very clear relationship. So we know all this. The suggestion, the hidden agenda from the debate motion was we are repairing too many aneurysms. So I thought I'd do a comparison with perhaps another country, like the States. And I don't know if Alan is still here, but Alan Kay has done that very comparison. And what it showed was that the instance of elective aneurysm repair per 100,000 is double in the States compared to the UK. Now, I accept different healthcare systems, different incentives, tariff-based system, etc., but still double the repair. It says England because it's NHS England data, but it can be extrapolated to the UK. And the other thing from this is we are operating on patients at between 0.5 and 1 centimeter larger in diameter, particularly in females. Does that have any impact, you'd ask, on outcomes? Well, I'm afraid it does, because if you look at the rate of hospitalization for ruptured aneurysms on the top left, lo and behold, we operate on half the number and we have double the number of ruptures coming in. Awkward. What about deaths as a whole from aneurysms, including repair and unrepaired ones? Well, we are much worse compared to the States. And yes, both lines are decreasing. And if anything, the line from the UK is decreasing faster. There's still a way to go. And if you look again at the diameter there, the mean diameter in the States is 58.6 millimeters compared to 64.1 in the UK, and worse for women. So not good, Rachel, not good. The next question would be, obviously, is, well, is there some correlation between the mean size of an inferior aneurysm at the time of operation and the rupture rate in that country? Because, to take an extreme example, if you only operated on 8 centimeter aneurysms, you would assume that you'd get a lot more ruptures in compared with if you operated on all of 4 centimeter aneurysms. And that's exactly what Kevin Marney has recently tried to look at in about 9 different healthcare systems. And oddly, there doesn't seem to be a correlation, but this may be because of the way the registry data was looked at. But what he did show was there was a huge variation in the number per 100,000 operated on, from about just over 10 in Hungary to 65 in Norway. So that is a massive variation from countries just within Europe. And John Boyle has recently looked at that from a registry point of view, and he's also shown a huge variability in the rate of repair and the size of repair from country to country. And What he also showed, though, is we seem to be getting better results. During that study period of 6 years, the perioperative mortality reduced from 2.1 down to 1.6. But two groups, though, that didn't do well, and that is pertinent to this debate, is those patients over 80 and indeed female patients. So perhaps, Rachel, we shouldn't operate on females. You may disagree with that. Derive benefit. Well, I agree with Rachel here. This is a prophylactic procedure. There's no symptomatic benefit. In fact, I agree, patients feel worse. But there probably is some psychological benefit. Ticking time bomb, yes, but actually patients are worried about it. They do look on site and they think that it's going to rupture. And even if they only live 3-4 years after repair, if those 3 to 4 years they feel protected from the repair, well, perhaps they have a better quality of life during that time. There aren't really any problems associated with aneurysm repair, so it's very difficult. But we have to also accept that a proportion of them live longer as a result of this. So, in conclusion, I think aneurysm diameter is imperfect, I get that, but it really is the best guide we have as a baseline indication for repair. But you've got to apply it sensibly. You can't just operate on everyone. And actually, patient selection is a completely different argument. It is a different part of the question. You don't just operate on all SFA occlusions or all carotid stenosis. The indication for the procedure is based on either a symptom or a risk factor. They've just got to cross a threshold. And that's why we sometimes set a higher threshold based on age, comorbidity, etc. So I think we're probably perhaps operating on just about the right. We're probably operating on enough patients, but we're close to perhaps operating on not enough. We've just got to select them a bit better. And we sometimes forget the psychological benefit that some patients derive. So despite all of Rachel's accolades and her very good argument, she is wrong. And we are surgeons and we do need to operate on aneurysms. So I think you need to reject the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mike. A very powerful rebuttal. Now, can we open the floor for voting again, please? So we shall keep the vote open for one more minute, and before we get the result in. That was an excellent photograph. I would have voted for you, Mike, if I was able to, just for the photo.
Thank you. Do you see, again, she stole my first joke. There's no stopping her. She's just stalking me.
I didn't even know you were going to make it.
Unbelievable.
We're just so alike, Mike. That's the difference.
That was my joke.
I know.
So
everything is fair. Everything is fair in a debate.
Oh dear.
It just made my point, though. She's just doing everything better than me.
I'm just following you. I'm so in awe, Mr. Jenkins. I literally follow you around like a lovesick teenager.
It's like the latest model. It's always slightly better. And when it comes out, the last one looks a bit tired, a bit old-fashioned, and the facelift is done, and it all looks nicer. And you're stuck with the old model. It has affected my mental health. I'm trying to get us to go to now.
I think Colin is in trouble now, doubling his on-call commitment.
I think
to be fair, Mike, in the last 6 months, I have moved 300 miles away from you, so the stalking argument would take a little bit of a, questioning in court. You're going to get a restraining order taken out against me.
Everyone can't share this, can they?
Yes, they can.
Yes, everyone can. Yes. Yeah. How is the voting coming on? Yes, we also saw you clutching your breast, Mr. Jenkins.
Yeah, I'm going to get some work in.
You're on the stage at the moment, Mike, so don't say anything too incriminating.
Okay. Yeah. So what is the new? Have we kept the orange on the new website? We spent ages thinking about it. Okay.
Yeah. It's
So we need
orange.
to
It's
talk
very,
to that.
you would approve. You're still your photo's still on the front page.
So we
Right,
need to
excellent.
sort those
Italy.
ethical people out. How dare they? How dare they?
Hello, Mike, Rachel and Mike. I'm glad to announce that we got the voting in, and it is a tie at exactly 50-50.
I don't believe it.
No,
Jeanette has fixed it.
that's unbelievable.
No.
You mean so I
It's
never
an
get
electronic
beaten?
system.
I get beaten twice, and then it's a tie. Whoever thought of a
It's
tie
a
in a
tie.
debate?
It's a tie. The very powerful debate from both of you. Thank you very much, Madam President and Mr. President. Thanks a lot. So now to move on, I now have the pleasant duty to make a few announcements before closing the meeting. With this meeting, Rachel has completed her term as the president of the BSET. Rachel has been, as you all know, very actively involved with the British Society of Endovascular Therapy since its very inception 16 years ago. Rachel's immense contribution and leadership has been very valuable to the society, and we are stronger than ever before with a strong sense of direction. On behalf of the members and the council, I thank Rachel for her great work. Colin Bicknell has been elected unopposed as the new president of the BSET. Welcome, Colin, and I'm certain, along with my fellow council members, that the society is safe in your leadership. I would also like to thank the outgoing council members, Ian Norden from Southampton, Rob Williams from Newcastle, Mary Weisters, who has been the Rulo Club representative, have completed their respective terms on the BSET Council. Thank you all very much for your contribution. It's also now time to welcome the newly elected council members, Martin Claridge from Birmingham, Thanos Seratzis from Leicester, and Emma Wilton from Oxford. Enrico Marcuso is now the new Rulo Club rep on the BSET. There is also another person for me to thank whose diligence and quiet efficiency makes everything go, and any BSET event and anything to do with BSET works smoothly because of Jeanette Oliver. Thank you, Jeanette. Without you, we can't do much. All of you would be familiar with the active program of BSET throughout the year, including the fellowships, and none of that would be possible without the financial support of our sponsors, and they are really appreciated. In alphabetical order, our sponsors, whose logos you have seen on the screen throughout the program today, they are Bentley, Cook, Cryolife, Sidar, Endologics, Gore, Lombard, Medtronic, and Terumo. Finally, just to remind you, all of the attendees, that you will receive an email later with the details on how to download your certificate of attendance. It's worth doing because there are CPD points to file away. You should also receive a feedback survey email, and please do complete that because your feedback is valuable to us in shaping the next program. And thank you very much, Bijan, for an excellent program today. A recording of this meeting will be available on the BSET website from next week. Finally, thank you all for attending today, and goodbye.